Throwing some banners in there. There it is. All right. Ready to rock and ride. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Sander, where we talk about this, that, everything in between. Today, we're going to be talking about your inner circle and how it's going to influence your success. And what we're going to do, because we've talked about this a couple times about your inner circle, but this time what we're going to be doing is we're not just going to be talking about why your inner circle is important and how your inner circle can negatively impact your success. We're actually going to specifically analyze your inner circle, and we're going to analyze the positive and negative impacts of your current inner circle so that we can determine if your inner circle is benefiting you or if your inner circle is negatively costing you success. So collateral damage typically comes from your capabilities to assess a situation and see how much you're benefiting versus how much you're not benefiting. And one of the things that we want to do with analyzing benefit is the cost analysis. Treating your social engagements with your friends a lot like a business is what we're going to be doing right now. So first, before we get started, let's make sure that you guys like and subscribe. For those of you that are on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, I'm putting a link in the comment section for you guys. If you want to join us on StreamYard, you'll be able to hit that link and then approve the mic, approve the camera. I'll bring you on, and you'll be able to talk to me in real time, which I encourage. But for those of you who like to comment with me in the comment section, I appreciate that as well. So for those of you that are on TikTok, until we have integrated TikTok into the rest of the platform, you guys have this nifty opportunity to be able to request to jump in through this particular invite button that you should be able to see accessible now. You request to get in, and as long as you're over the age of 18, I slide you in, and then you guys can dive in with your 2 cents. I know some people like to throw shout outs. I'm okay with that, but as long as those shout outs are appropriate. Beyond that, being able to put some insight on today's topic or other topics related to today's topic while we're having our discussion, strongly encouraged. So this is, let's see, hold on. Oh, hey, how you doing, Ghost? This is where we are right now with making sure that everybody's here. I want you guys to like and subscribe, follow us on all social media platforms. So for those of you that are on TikTok, we have in the bottom right corner our YouTube platform, primarily where we broadcast from. You hit that subscribe button. It'll take you over to YouTube. You subscribe, it bounce back. On a YouTube platform, we have all of our shows going out till at least the 18th of October. I'm going to be updating that soon, where we're going to have at least 30 days worth of shows up there. For those of you that are on TikTok, we're trying to get our stream key. So if you could hit that follow button, that aid us out with getting our stream key. We need to cross over 10,000. I put up a goal of 100,000 just because I like to be an overachiever. You're not going to be successful in life or in business if you do not aim higher than you need to succeed. Because if you aim higher than you need to succeed, no matter how high you fail, you will be failing higher than everybody else's success. So if I aim for 100 grand and get 11,000 and I fail, hey, at least I got my stream key. Doesn't matter. As you see, we got on TikTok, we got this picture-in-picture situation. So over here in the top left, that is the YouTube, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter over there in the left side. So we have a little bit of a picture-in-picture situation here. I was asked by some of my nice ladies from the T-Mobile system who helped us out with our internet system over the past week to give out a shout-out. So Amanda, Adrian, Amy, Sarah, and Sharon from T-Mobile in the Philippines. These ladies are hardworking ladies. I want to give you guys a shout out. I really appreciate you ladies for helping me out with my internet system. They're telling me, hey, come over to the Philippines. Women are hardworking women. I know. So don't worry, we're going to be traveling the world. And when we do get out there, we're going to get out there and we're going to be live broadcasting from the Philippines. So until we get to the Philippines, we're going to be promoting everybody who's everybody and anybody who's anybody from anywhere in the world. And we're going to try to start traveling throughout the United States first, go to some of our top 10 states and visit those locations and potentially cross some of our fans. And then after we finish doing statewide travel, then we will passport bro ourselves to nationwide, or not nationwide, countrywide travels where we'll end up in other countries, few weeks, few months, showing the fans exactly what we got going on So just really looking at the value of the investment of the podcast as far as our commuting. We're going to be giving you guys a lot of advice about business and finance and investing. And that's why right now, making sure that your inner circle is profitable to you is a key factor in your success in business. One of the reasons why people say that you can't do business with friends is because your friends are unreliable. Human nature is human nature. And one of the things that you're going to deal with your friends in human nature is that your work ethic might not be their work ethic. So if you're not the lazy friend out of the two of you, if you're the overachieving friend out of the two of you, and your friend's not putting in as much work as you, you'll be in a situation where you'll start despising your friend because your friend does not have the same work ethic as you, and they're not carrying their weight. And you, as the good friend, are carrying the weight of you and your friend, where your friend is not being productive. And you and I both know that when we are working alongside somebody who's supposed to get the same amount of compensation as we do for the same quantity of work, and we're doing more work than the other person, that's when you start saying, nah, that motherfucker need to get off his ass and get his shit together, or we don't want to pay that motherfucker for the shit that they're not doing. So that typically draws a wedge between you and your friend, because your friend is going to have a subconscious sense of entitlement because they're involved, even though they're not participating. And that typically draws a wedge between you and your friend, because your friend's going to want money from you, and you're not going to want to give it to them because they didn't really earn it, but they feel like they're entitled to it because they're your friend. Those are the same kind of friends that will borrow money from you and then hold it forever, with the concept that, as long as I have it, you'll never be broke. And if I hold it till you need it because you're going to need it, then I can just give it to you when you need it. Those mentalities are the friends that make excuses and gaslight you into believing that because they borrowed money from you that you are good. That's not the case. They were kept and they haven't fallen off yet, and but they have not compensated you for your efforts. And the excuses that they're giving you, gaslighting you in a situation to lead you to believe that everything's good because that's your buddy. No, that's not the case. They got to comp you the same way they would comp a stranger, because fact is, you're supposed to treat your friends better than you treat your strangers, and you're supposed to treat your friends better than you treat acquaintances. So if you borrow money from a friend, the same way you would give the money back as fast as possible for a bill collector, the same way you would give the money back as fast as possible for a cash advance. The friend that you borrowed money from, you're supposed to get that money back as fast as possible. So when you're in a situation where you're dealing with these friends that are borrowing money from you, borrowing against a stone, they're negatively impacting your financial success, and they're not reciprocating. You can't take a financial L and write off loaning money to a friend, or basically lending money to a friend. You can't really write that off as a financial loss, because you guys have no contractual obligation between one another. It is not a business investment, and because it's not a business investment, you cannot write that off as a financial loss. So truth is, with your friendships, if you did have contracts with your friendships, your friends will be sitting here looking at you sideways, because they feel like they should get on faith, they should get on principle, they should get out of loyalty. And those individuals that believe that they should receive from you just because are using you. Those are not good friends, and those are not the ones that you want to. You're not going to be successful with that kind of friend. You have to think about it like this: if this was a restaurant, if you are a restaurant or a hotel or whatever, and you're providing a service, everybody else normally pays for this service, and you're giving this service away to your buddy for free. If your buddies, all of your buddies were your primary customers, then you're primarily not making any money. So if you're investing into your friends, and your friends are a total loss, where you're not reciprocating or recouping from your investment some sort of break-even point or a positive value, then each one of the friends in your network that takes from you without returning it in a reasonable period of time is putting you at a financial loss. When you loan money to a friend and you don't get some sort of one-page contract where they're obligated to pay you a certain number of quantity of money with interest back for that particular type of investment, if you don't get that in writing, it's not even actionable in the courtroom. But if it is actionable as an investment, you can claim it as an investment where you invested into your friend. He wanted me to loan him some money. You gave him some investment capital towards his personal debt or whatever. You invested into that person where he's contractually obligated to pay you a certain amount of money per month over a number of months until you've paid off. If he borrows $100 from you, or let's say he borrows $1,000 from you, he's now supposed to give you, say, $75 a month for 20 months. Something like that. You say, holy shit, that's a lot of money. Well, or not 20. Yeah, 20 months. 20 months is good because that's almost 2 years. But if you borrowed $1,000 from me and $75 a month for 10 months is $750, $75 a month for 20 months is $1,450, which means I made a $450 profit off of my investment in you, which is a 45% profit, 45% on my investment. Which your friend could say, well, can I pay you early? Yeah, you can make advance payments, but you cannot make late payments. If you make late payments, there will be an additional percentage of interest on the monthly payment that is added to the principal of your overall annual monthly payments, so that by the duration of the closation of this particular agreement, your friend who's borrowing money from you has paid you back in full. That makes sense. Now, if you're doing a certain quantity of money per month for a certain period of time beyond a certain period of months, and you charge more interest on that, then you also got to think about it, because think about the fact that if you're charging your friend 45% of the value of the money that you're loaning to them, or 20%, or if you say, well, I'm going to charge him market average on cash loans. Remember cash advance loans are like 300 to 500%, right? 300 to 500%. So if you're going to charge them less than a payday loan or less than a cash advance loan, where you look at the market average for cash advances and payday loans in his area or her area, and you look at that particular market area and you say, well, the market average is charging 200%, and 200% means that I'm going to get $2,000 back for every $1,000 I lend out over a period of time. That's the interest markup, which means that in 20 months, you're going to pay me $1,000, which means that you're paying me $200 a month for 20 months instead of $75 a month for 20 months. And, or no, you'd be paying me $100 a month for 20 months instead of $75 a month for 20 months, but $100 a month for 20 months, or pay it off as soon as possible, where you're, say, $25 out of every $75 that you give me will be interest. So only $50 of every $75 that you give me goes towards the principal. When you're thinking about it like that, you're looking at, if 2, 3, 4 months go down the line, $50 went towards the principal. Then when you get ready to pay it off in full, how much do I owe you? Well, according to the contract, you've only paid me for 5 months. $50 a month went towards the principal. So your current amount is X number of dollars. When you start setting it up like that, you do a whole, and you could word it like a 1-page contract, but if you did a 2-page contract with it, have your friend sign it. They don't got to give it back to you right away. But when you say, well, I'm charging you X number of dollars for interest, you're supposed to pay me, say, by the end of every month, and you are penalized a certain percentage for failing to pay on time, right? The money's due on the 1st, you got to give it to me by the 31st, or the money's due on the 1st, it's got to be given to me by the end of the month. If it's not given to me by the end of the month, you receive a late penalty, right? So whatever that late penalty is, 5 or 10% additional. You can look at the laws and see what laws allow for penalties for late payments and what the market average is for penalties for late payments. Then you apply that to this particular type of contract. And when you put it up there like that, you can actually create a standardized contract that you utilize for loaning money to your friends and family. And if they sign those contracts, then you can loan them money. By doing that, you have an investment contract. If you have an investment contract where you have invested money into your friend, for whatever fucking reason that they got going on until they give you back the money in full. They're supposed to be giving you dividends off of the money that you invested into your friend, which is the interest payments off of the loan. And that could then be written off on your taxes because you invested into a individual. And that is more beneficial than just borrowing money with a friend. But looking at your market, if you're going to be the most successful person in your market, it's going to be harder for your network to really be able to pay you back in full or pay you back with interest. But looking at that particular type of market and understanding that particular type of market that you have up under you, that if you are going to be doing this kind of contract with them or making these types of trades with them, your inner circle, your network is going to not ask you for as much shit because you're looking at actionable contracts in the court of law. You're looking at the capabilities of them putting up certain assets as collateral towards the loan, depending on the magnitude of the loan. You know, they could say, well, what about the car? Sure, you can put the car up as collateral, and they say, well, he can't get my car. But I could put a tax lien on that fucking car, and then the dealership can't sell the car without paying me because I put a lien on the car. So I can't get the car without paying off the final payment on the car, but the dealership can't take the car and sell it to somebody else without me getting my money from the situation. So you could do shit like that. You could put a lien on the house. Stuff to that. But when you start thinking about taking civil action against a friend, you start thinking about really destroying that friendship and burning those bridges. But if you keep your social network as just business, and people are going to say, well, no, you're supposed to love and care for your friends and blah, 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 blah. No, fuck that shit. You're trying to be a highly successful, highly valuable man. If you treat every engagement with your friends as a transactional relationship, since we're in a transactional culture in the Western countries of the United States here, we're dealing with transactional relationships right now. If you start transactionalizing these things, you start to say, well, my friend wants to borrow money. I can invest in you. It could be a investment opportunity where I can lend you a certain quantity of money. How long do you want to hold it for? There's interest rates applied. You pay it back in full. You can make payments on it, and it doesn't matter how long it takes for you to get it in line of the contract. But if you overshadow the contract, there are penalties involved for that as well. If you're willing to accept these terms and conditions, sign here. I'll get you your money. You'll be good to go. Then you start setting it up, because also you got to look at payback options, because some friends say, oh, well, I'll wire you the money. I'll PayPal you the money. I'll do this. I'll do that. But it charges you a service fee. So since it charges you a service fee, the problem is that if they pay you back $100, if they borrowed $100 and they pay you back $100 all through PayPal or Venmo or something like that, and you've got to pay a service fee or lose out on the difference with that service fee, that's not the full amount that they owed you. So in your contract, you want to say that the amount of money received is applied to the principal of the loan, not the amount of money sent, where the amount of money sent minus the service fee for the transaction to transfer money from the borrower to the lender is applied to the premium balance. So if you send it to me through Cash App and there's no service fee, then you're good. If you send it to me through Venmo, there's no service fee, you're good. If you send it to me through PayPal, there's no service fee, you're good. But if you wire transfer it, and there's a $65 fee for you wire transferring me $1,000, so it's not actually $1,000, it's like $935 kind of thing, then I didn't get my whole $1,000. You still owe me the other $65. That's what you're talking about when you say, okay, the money received is applied to the principal of the amount owed. Now, when you're generating a contract, a lender's contract for your friend, a borrower's contract for your friend, you're going off of your friend's collateral with you, not like checking their credit score and all this other shit. You're just saying, okay, based on you, I know you're good for it. This is how much it is. Now, you got 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 contracts with them. You start saying, man, I can't lend you more money until you pay me back for the last one. You got to pay off the last debt before I can give you more, like Amscot, where they will lend to you up to the maximum amount that you qualify for, but you must first pay them back, wait 24 hours, and then borrow the money again, and then they'll send you out more money. This prevents your network from being able to use you financially for resources as far as financial capital, because one, most friends are not going to want to go through that trouble to borrow money from you. They're going to expect you to either give it to them, or they will never ask you for money, knowing that you are very strict about your capital gains. The other thing is that your network is going to have more respect for your money, so they're not going to come and ask you unless it really is that serious, because they know what you're going to put them through to get that money. Transactionalizing your engagements with your network is going to protect your assets and your wealth, but as you treat other people is as you expect other people to treat you. So if you are in a down position, you're going to be expecting your network to do the same thing to you and say, okay, you got to do this contract, this, that, and the third, X, Y, and Z. And that's why if you're going to do something like this, you create yourself a little template. So if you create yourself a little template, you have it set up there where whoever's borrowing the money can put their name up at the top, however much money that they're trying to borrow. If the interest rates and standard information is going to be the same, it's linear, and then you sign it, they sign it, and if you get a witness where a third party signs this, or you go to a notary and pay a notary $10 to sign it, then you've got two people and a witness, and that particular type of contract between you and a buddy. How you doing? I really appreciate you, Sib. Vex. That is the kind of stuff that would aid you when you're lending money to a friend. Remember, you're trying to be successful. You can do the same thing with your kids. You can do the same thing with your girlfriend. You can do the same thing with your wife, because when you're in these situations where family members and friends, family members and girlfriends and wives, they're, oh, well, let me borrow X, Y, and Z dollars. Oh, you should give it to me because you love me. I mean, to be honest with you, when you get divorced, your wife is not going to talk about all the best things that you did for her. They're not going to talk about how you helped her, how you took care of her, how you got her in every single emergency that she was in. They're more often than not going to just come and talk about the shit that you did wrong, the stuff that they don't like. They're going to talk about the fact that you are a horrible person. But if you've got all of these contracts sitting there where you're like, hey, I lent money this time, I lent money that time, I lent money this time, and they didn't even pay me back on that. And however long old this particular contract was, because you're going to have the contract, and then you should, in addition to having a contract, keep track of the payment history, where you notate, in addition to this contract, how often they have made payments. So that contract might actually be a 5 or 7 or 10 page long contract where you have the payment list, or you might do like a table in there if you're going to do 20 months of payments. And then you're going to say, well, if you've got 20 months of payments, there's 20 payments there. If you give me the 20 payments, then you're paid off. You might have 20 payments, and then you might have another page with another 20 payments up there. And if you did that, you're assuming that they're probably going to be late or not late. They might not give you all of it. They might just give you some of it. And then they're going to be making more than 20 payments. If you want to do extra, just in case, you can say, well, it's a 20 payment plan, and I gave you 40 opportunities to pay it off in full. Now, in there, you're going to notate how much money they gave you, and you're going to probably want to do like a double section in there and have the date that they gave you that money and how much money they paid you that day, and notate that each time. You do that on your list, then if they paid you in full, whether they overpaid or underpaid or whatever, if they paid you in full, you're good to go. If they didn't pay you in full, however many times they gave you money towards it, and then when they kept making excuses, you just don't document the fact that they've ever given you anything else. But when they start talking about, divorce and this, that, and the third, yeah, that's fine. Well, we have a contract where we lent money here, you didn't pay me there. You lent money here, you didn't pay there. You lent money here, you didn't pay there. And it's sitting there where this contract is saying that there's accrued interest. And keep in mind that it is actionable for typically most legal actions in some states are 2 to 3 years. Some are 5 years that they can continue to collect on that particular debt. And then after that, it is non-collectible. It could be on your credit score for up to 7 years. But when you're dealing with this particular type of engagement, most relationships don't last 3 years. So when they start talking about, we're going to break up and give me half and give me this and give me that, and it's like, nah, she owed me $10, $15, $20,000 over the past 2-3 years with 40% interest. We agreed upon that 40% interest has compounded over the past 3 or 4 years. She owes me like $15,000-$20,000, which accumulates more than all of the value of everything in this claim. And the judge will say, all right, in that case, just part ways. You don't get nothing if you agree not to take anything. And then that kind of keeps them from running off with all of your shit. Now, that's just one way to go about doing things when it talks about micromanaging your friends and making sure that your network is clean. Making sure that your network is clean is that you really got to assess your friends. So just like when the girls come up and ask you what's your name and what you do for a living and how much money do you make, you kind of want to get that conversation down with your friends. You kind of, with those friends, especially when they borrow money from you, you got to know when's their payday, how much money did they get on their paycheck, and you got to really vet your friends. You want to make sure that your friends are making a reasonable quantity of capital, because you don't want friends in your inner circle that are going to have to depend on you for money. Now, you also have to take into account those friends that they'll loan you money for an extended period of time and don't really care if you give them the money back. Those, I'm not going to say that those friends are better than friends that borrow money from you, but I am going to say that if you got a friend that will lend you an unspecified quantity of capital and never ask for it to be returned because they know that you will give them that money back and potentially give them that money back in spades, those are the type of friends that you want to make sure that you look out for as soon as you get a come up. But the friends that are more asking from you than giving to you, you want to have the same mentality. And same thing with your girlfriend, same thing with your wife, same thing with your parents. If your parents is borrowing money from you or something to that effect, you want to make sure that you straighten those people out. I was talking on the show about it just the other day about a buddy of mine who's got a family member borrowing his car, uses his car, doesn't pay for the insurance, doesn't put gas in the car, disconnects his dash cam, takes stuff out of his car without his consent, and really treats it like it's not even his car, like it's their car, but they're using his car. And though I'm like, bro, if they disrespecting your shit, bro, you're not supposed to fuck with them like that. They're just like a rental car. Don't take nothing out of the car that was in the car before you got in the car. And if you're not making extra payments on the car, you don't use it. Plain and simple. So you got, even in his situation, I thought it was entertaining to listen to the story, because he's in a household where it's him and two other adults with an income. They had their own vehicle. They were sharing it. They were paying for the car insurance and putting the gas in their own vehicle. He was paying for his vehicle, putting gas in his vehicle and taking care of his own vehicle. They lost their vehicle. Now they're using his vehicle. You had two vehicles in the same household amongst three people, where they were taking care of their vehicle. You were taking care of your own vehicle. Now that y'all are sharing one vehicle, instead of them paying for 2/3 of your vehicle the way they were paying for their vehicle, they're not paying for shit. They're just using your vehicle and then not putting gas in it. I said, bro, you got to stop and look at this. If the resources, if you're paying for 2/3 of the household income, and you had 3 times the resources when you started out, you have 1/3 of the resources that you started out with, and now you have 3 times the expense. You're being used. I don't care if it's your family. I don't care if it's your friends. I don't care if it's your girlfriend. If they can give you sloppy toppy, it don't matter. What you got to understand is that if you're spending more money with less resources, you are being used, because they can afford to cover 1/3 of what they're using, because they were covering it when they were responsible for it on their own. So here in 2024, going into 2025, when we start analyzing the kind of friends that we have in our inner circle, we got to really look at, are we benefiting from them? Risk assessment, collateral damage assessments. You are assessing when even when your friends ask you to hang out, how much is this going to cost you? Are you making money out of this deal? Like, your friends want you to go with them to the bar. They want you to be a designated driver. So that means that you're using your car. If I'm using my car, it's somebody putting gas in my car. They're not going to pay for the maintenance. If a flat happens, they might help you change the flat, but they're not going to give you money to repair the flat. So you're looking at what reasonably will they pay for in exchange for compensation of your services and your time. Because you might not be really willing to go to the club, but you're going because your buddies want you to go. They want you to be a designated driver because you don't drink that much. Well, a fair exchange for the time and services is to pay for the gas in the car, pay for the cover, pay for the parking. If I'm not drinking, that's pretty much it. And when they pay for the gas in the car, you're gonna fill my fucking tank. So that means it doesn't matter where we go for the rest of the day. You fill my tank or at least top me off, then you've replaced the gas that I use for this particular adventure. You're paying for my car to be in a parking spot. Now my car is going to be in a parking spot because I'm your designated driver. I don't want to have to dump it in a neighborhood, in a dark alley somewhere and hope that nothing happens to it. We're going to put it in a secure location. You're going to pay for it to be there. And then you're going to pay for my cover to get into the building. Now I'm going to follow you like your personal security guard. And if you're going to buy me additional drinks or whatever on top of that, I'm the designated driver, so I'm not drinking alcohol. So, $3-5 a drink for my Sprite, Coke, root beer, whatever. You might get me one rum and Coke or gin and juice or whatever you're going to give me, the Sex on the Beach or something like that. You can give me one drink or whatever, a little beer or something like that, $2, $3, $5, $10, one drink or two drinks, because they might tell you that there's a 2-drink minimum for each person, but 2 beers is still $8, and the $8 plus the $5 or $10 for the cover, you're looking at $20 plus the parking, which should be $10 to $20, which is $40 plus the gas, which should be at least $10 to $20. So you're $60. So you give me $60 to come out here and spend 3 hours with you. Fine, it's $20 an hour. I can do that. But if you're paying for your gas to bring your friends somewhere, you're paying for parking to bring your friends somewhere, you got to pay your own cover to get in there, and you're paying for drink. You don't even drink. That's a waste of time, waste of money. When you vet your friends, if your friends only call on you when they want to have a good time, yes, it's good to have friends to hang out with. It's good to celebrate with your friends. But just like your friends are supposed to be there when you're trying to celebrate, your friends are also supposed to be there when times are tough. So when you're not out there trying to make money, your friends should be there trying to encourage you to make money. Not just show up, oh, let's go hang out and have a good time. Let's go smoke. No. Got to make money, buddy. You can smoke and make money at the same time. So if you want to smoke, you got to find a way for us to make money while you smoke. And it's got to be legal tender. It can't be say, oh, well, we can do X, Y, and D. We can swing, we can scam, we can nah. You want to smoke, you got to smoke and make money while you smoke it. You want to drink, you got to make money while you drink it. You want to play Xbox, you got to make money while you're playing Xbox. If we can make money while we're doing what you're trying to do today, then we can do that. But if you tell your friends straight up that if we're not making money while we're hanging out, then we can't hang out today. Maybe on my day off. I'll take a day off where I'm not going to get paid to do anything. And that will be the day that I can call you up, even if that's once a month or once a year. I'll contact you when I'm not interested in making money that day, and then I'll see what you're up to, and we can go and not make money that day together. But if you are not trying to make money and you're calling me while you're not trying to make money and I'm trying to make money, I am not going to associate with you because I'm trying to make money. Now, be that as it may, people are going to say, well, that's not how you're supposed to treat your friends. We are in a generation where everybody's grinding. Everybody. I just talked to you guys a couple times this past month about the hustle culture and how we are overextending ourselves for absolutely no reason. And then we're doing it under the expectation that we're probably going to make a little bit of cash off of it here and there. The truth of the matter is that you're not necessarily going to get big money off of small transactions if you're not setting yourself up for the long term. You have to make sure that you set yourself up for the long term. So if you're setting yourself up for the long term, then whatever you're doing transaction by transaction right now will turn into bulk transactions. Bulk transactions will turn into paying somebody to be there to collect those bulk transactions. Paying somebody to be there to collect those bulk transactions will turn into you paying multiple people to collect bulk transactions, which will turn into you paying somebody to watch multiple people bring in bulk transactions, which will turn into you paying a recruiter to recruit more people to bring in more transactions. So you see how you're expanding? But if it's just you, transaction to transaction to transaction, whatever this, it doesn't matter, even if it's real estate. If you're just flipping this one house and you're going to get money off of this one house, that money is one time. If you are not making money off of this house so that you can put it into making money off of another house, so that you can put it into making money off of another house, so that you can pay somebody to put it into making money off of another house, so that that person can put it into making money for another house with you while you're taking other money and doubling down on the effort. And then you're paying for a third person to take over that one. And now you got two people doubling down on the effort. So you can double down on their effort. And then you can hire somebody who can manage these people, who can vet the people and have more people, hiring more people to continue to double down on your efforts, which means that you can then turn around and have somebody else double down on those efforts. And if somebody is getting paid to make sure that you're getting paid, then that person's profits is going to be a percentage of your revenue, which means that they got to make sure that you're making bank. So now you can walk away from it. Somebody else's job is to manage this shit. You don't even have to manage this shit. All you got to do is just make sure that you get yours. How you doing, Zoe? Good to see you. Truth. No matter how you look at it, when you are engaging your homies, when you're looking at your social network, because I did say that it's not always about money. Sometimes it's about knowledge. Sometimes it's about network. Sometimes it's about effort. I know that if you have a couple buddies, they got some trucks you need to move, you can contact a buddy that can help you move, and it's not a problem. You also got those, you could be the buddy with the truck, and you got those buddies that'll come and help you move or ask you to come and help them move, and you're not getting compensated for the move. You're burning all the gas out of your truck, you're taking a day off, you're doing all the heavy lifting on both sides of the fence. You could do the same thing to your buddies that your buddies are doing to you. You could transactionalize it. If the effort that your friends are getting out of you is monetized by the effort that you're putting into your friends, then your friends are not going to ask more of you than they're willing to get from you or willing to give to you. See what I'm saying? Meaning, if you got a truck and your friends want to put gas into your truck, buy you something to eat, you don't have to be expensive on the situation. You know that if you wanted your friends to help you move, you're putting gas in the truck, you're paying for the transportation, you buy them something to eat. That's the difference. If you're bringing a truck and you just need some hands, you'll feed them, get them something to drink, get them a reasonable quantity of food. They'll help you do the work. That's one thing. Likewise, if you would do that same level of work for that same quantity of compensation for them, it's mutual. When it's mutual, it's a balanced arrangement. That's what you're looking at. You're looking for a balanced arrangement. So when it's not mutual, that's when you start looking at who's favored. So when you're in a situation where you got to give cash and give capital to somebody else, but they don't have to give that same cash and capital to you in the same situation, just like when Mr. Pibbs was on the show talking to us about his adult freelance worker that was his girlfriend at the time that he could allegedly get money from, because she said, whenever you need me, call on me. Then when he called on her, she said she'll help him out. 3 days later, he needed the money within the hour. 3 days later, she ain't never came back with it, and he was mad about that. And I'm like, bro, transactionally, she gets paid for her time. So do you think that she's going to give you money, loan you money, or in any way, shape, or form advance you money when she's working from engagement to engagement, social experiment to social experiment? He's like, oh, well, I know, but no, there ain't no buts. There ain't no buts. You cannot tell me that somebody who charges for their time is going to front you some capital for their time, knowing that, you know, they need that dollar to dollar in the end, which is one of the reasons why I told you, if you start doing those contracts where you're loaning out money to your friends with interest, where they're not getting anything else from you until they pay you back, but you're holding that contract overhead, where even if you have the contract set up where it is renewable, you can renew the contract over years. Renewable is the ability to extend the length of beyond the normal length of the law, where they agree to continue paying you on this particular debt 10 years down the line. They still owe you from the original principal, you know. And it'll start off with borrowing some money to get something to eat. They'll borrow some money to go buy something small. They'll borrow some money to pay a bill. Then they're going to borrow some money to put a down payment on some shit. Then they're going to borrow some money to buy some shit. The amount of money that they borrow is going to continue to increase. It's going to continue to fluctuate in an upward scenario until such time as somebody calls in the debt. It's like putting it on my tab. But the difference between putting it on my tab versus interest to the loan, compounded interest to the loan, is the fact that you're not making any money off of giving your resources to somebody else. Now, what are the better ways for you to improve your network? Another way to improve your network is to analyze and gauge the success level of the individuals in your network. Now, keep in mind, this has nothing to do with gender. If you're looking at analyzing the ability to observe somebody's success rate in your network, your success rate in your network is going to be compounded by the success rate of your network. And how does that work? Figure if all your homeboys are hanging out and having a good time, they're not trying to advance on money. You're trying to advance on money. If there is a money-making deal, a money-making opportunity that exists, your friend would more likely come to your money-making opportunity to get money too. But you also have to understand that money-making opportunities, whether it's saturated or not, the quantity of competition involved is based on the quantity of people that's doing it. Then even if your partner is in there, your homeboy is in there as a partner, they're going to help you with it. You still got to break off your homie for doing this money-making opportunity with you, which also means that they're likely competition. Even if they're working in favor of your success, you still have to break off some of your success to the person that's helping you be successful, which means that that is a variation of competition because you're not making as much money as you would have been making doing it by yourself. But it is also the cost of doing business, because if you're able to triple or quadruple the workload, if you do the work of 5 people, they do the work of 3 people, y'all are maximizing your workload. And by maximizing your workload, you're also looking at the fact that you're doubling, tripling, quadrupling the money. And then out of that, you might give them a percentage of the money. Even though you're making less because they helped you, you're still making more because they helped you. It's the cost of doing business. But when you think about how if we're going to get paid $1 per person to do this job, where I would have ultimately gotten $100 to do this job, if we're getting $1 per person off of the average expectations of the success of this job, I got to give you $50 out of the $100 that I would have gotten from doing a job. That's you making more money. I'm not making more money. If I could have gotten $100 doing this job by myself and I got to give you 50 because you helped me, that's competition. You helped me be successful, but that's competition. So while there's no problem with that overall, you have to take into consideration the opportunity of you recouping capital from their business ventures, which means that they've got to have positive revenue coming from business ventures. So if you're the only friend that has money-making opportunities and all of your friends jump in on your money-making opportunities, and every time they jump in on your money-making opportunity, all of y'all are successful, but you're making less individually than what you would have made, or you're making less in a group than what you would have made individually. Recognizing this, if you're not in a group where they also have money-making opportunities, where all of y'all are making money in different areas, you're going to have to start replacing people in your group. And when I say replacing people in your group, I'm not saying, oh, well, cut your friends off, burn bridges. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if you have a money-making opportunity, your friend doesn't put you on as many money-making opportunities as you put your friend on. You're making your friend more money, or guiding your friend in the direction of making more money than what your friend guides you. How you doing, Brad? Good to see you again today. Truth. The most effective way is to just not involve them in the rest of your money-making opportunities. When your friend starts talking about doing things with you, I got to go to work. I got to go get this work done. I got contracts, I got deals, I got obligations, I got to make ends, right? You're going to come to find that certain friends are going to be like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Yeah, I know. You should not be trying to, oh, I'm sorry, this happened, that happened, the other happened. No, I don't give a fuck. Fact is, got to make money. Most of us 20s, 30s, 40s that have not made ourselves financially stable right now are grinding 2, 3, 5 jobs, 1 in-person job, 1 potential driving job, side hustle or whatever. Some people got online jobs. Some people got in-person and online jobs. Though some of those people that got remote jobs are doing 10 hours on 1 remote job and 8 hours on another remote job. They don't take days off. They alternate between the jobs, where they might be off on one job one day out of the week and the other job on a different day out of the week, where they're overall in their personal life never off. Everybody's grinding. So if you've got a network that is not grinding too, where they're all grinding with you for your success while you're grinding with them for their success, you don't have a group that's trying to be successful. It's like a three-legged race, the potato sack race at the family reunions. If your friend is not running as fast as you, y'all not gonna win. Y'all not gonna win together. You know, the fact of the matter is that you've got to have the type of group, the type of network that is going to heavily invest in your success through effort, through recognition of money making opportunities, redirecting successful traffic in your direction. So if they are aware of financial opportunities that'll be successful for you, they got to find ways to get that information to you. Like I had a buddy who told me that there was a deal that didn't apply to me, but he thought, oh, well, this is in the field, the niche that you're working in. So I just thought that it'd be a good idea to pass this information along. Appreciate that. He kind of forwarded that information to me as a way of saying, I'm sorry for not working hard enough on the job that we once was working on, but it didn't faze me nonetheless to the magnitude that, I mean, I still talk to the guy, but the fact is that you gave me useless information. Now, when I call you and say, hey, this is a way that you can make extra money, I can show you the money. I show you this is a way that you can make extra money. And then after I show you the way to make extra money, I've made that money. I've shown him ways that he could take loss from his yearly expenses and use that as a gain. So just working with me, in a sense, will put money in your pocket because I'm going to show you how to take the money that you invest in and turn it into a gain. Now, beyond that, I'm saying, hey, you can subcontract yourself into other scenarios. You can put some of your resources and investment capital into other more successful ranges where you can start seeing better results. For example, he told me about a real estate app where you put your money onto the app every month. He gives them $250 a month for 12 months. They're going to give him 20% interest over that 12 months. He's going to see about $360 of money off of it, which is about 20%. But there's going to be a service fee to withdraw the money. He's going to have like 20+% taxes on that money. So he's not actually, because the $300 and something worth of profit that he made is going to be taxed 20%. Or a little over 20%. Because I think that up until 2024, it's going to be, up until the laws change from 24 to 25, it's going to be like 28% they're going to tax you. So almost a quarter of your money. So for every $100 that you make, $28 going on Sam. So you're looking at, almost $80 that out of the 360 that's going on Sam, which means that you're closer to 240, 220 that you're going to walk away with before they charge you the transactional fee of withdrawing the money off of their platform. Usually platforms charge you a 3% fee for the platform to get your money back off of the platform, which is going to reduce the 240 by 3%. It's going to take you probably another $80 or something like that, $80 off brings you down to almost 160. So you're not even looking at what you should have been paying when you were going into that. What you're looking at is, there goes Mr. Pibbs over there on TikTok. What you're looking at is you're not making as much back on your real estate investment if you're going to put money into something that is going to then charge you a fee to get it back, and you still got to pay taxes on that. I told him, I said, well, if you were to take that money and go invest it into, I was telling him about tax liens, the liens where you put your money up. And then if you find the right liens, because there's certain liens that you could put on there, and those liens will lead you to either a short-term gain or a long-term gain, but those liens are going to give you 18%. Those liens are not going to be taxed as a fee to get it off of a site, because typically the city or state that you put that lien on is going to pay you back in a check, in the form of a check. Some might even wire transfer or direct deposit or something like that as an ACH payment, where you don't have to deal with that fee, but you're going to get the whole 18% back. That's actually a better gain. So giving your friend good advice about how to invest in invest their money into similar investment platforms actually aids them in being more financially successful. So when you are trying to give your friend advice or trying to get advice from your friend, you got to make sure that the information that you're receiving is beneficial, and then you have to be able to see if that is utilizable. So when I gave him the information and I'm like, hey, we can go and you can actually go into some of these properties where you can invest. If you're trying to invest and get back money on a lien, you want to contact the most recent liens and say, hey, I'm gonna throw this money down. You can make money back, this, that, and third. They had another guy that told me that even better with tax liens is that if you was to go to your local clerk's office, to just go down to the state office and say, hey, $50. I want a list of everybody who hasn't paid their taxes recently. You can cold call a lot of the liens and find people that are currently living in their house, and you can let them know, hey, I came across your information and noticed that you haven't paid your taxes and was wondering if you and I could work something out where I could help you out with that. Now, some people who are living in their house, some people don't care. They might hang up the phone because it's cold call. Some people who are living in their house, especially if they are two payments behind, where they're in the position where the state can take their house, and you're calling them, those are at risk of losing their house and they still live in their property. You contact them and say, hey, I can make this payment for you if you're willing to work on a contract where I cover this deal, and then you start making payments to me on the amount of money with the 18 to 20% interest rate on it. Pay me in smaller government, and now you're able to get those tax liens paid directly to you, and you don't really got to deal with, and that's another style of contract. You don't have to really deal with the U.S. government, but their property is covered, they're in a clear, and instead of them having to give the government all this extra money in a lump sum, they can make increment payments to you, and if they miss their next state payment because they're caught up, if they make their next state payment, you can refinance the contract with them by saying, hey, you owe another amount. If you want, I can cover this amount, and then you make the monthly payments on this one in addition to this one, where your new balance will be X number of dollars, and you're going to make these X number of payments on it. Doing that, you can keep somebody from losing their home and make a profit off of it. If you're looking at a property that is able to be sold, and you got to vet the property first. Vet the property, if the tenant doesn't, if the home resident doesn't live there, you vet the property, you make sure that there are no mortgages on the property or other liens on the property before you start trying to negotiate buying this property. But if you vet the property first, and then come to find out nobody lives there, I might want to scoop this property. You contact the homeowner, hey, nobody's living in this property, XYZ. Are you interested in selling the property? Yeah or nay? If they're interested in selling the property, then you can offer them a value on the property that includes subtracting the cost of the taxes that needs to be paid on the property, offer the value of the property, assess the property, and then you can try to get you almost a wholesale deal on this particular property where even if you wholesale the deal, they sell the property to you, or they're willing to sell the property to you. You can get one of those wholesale contracts where you're going to put a hold on the property for the value of the property taxes that you're going to cover for them, so that they don't lose the house to the state, while you are allocating this what do they call that, appointment contract to somebody else, where a wholesaler can come and buy that property, or a real estate investor can come and buy that property. You as a wholesaler can then make a profit off of that too. So there's other ways that you can work out all of these particular avenues. There's a lot of different ways that you can work this stuff out. It's complicated. The more pieces that you put, the more cogs in the wheel that you put into that. But that is an investment opportunity. You can actually make more money off of your investment opportunities if you have the kind of friends that know ways of making more money, have ways of investing more money, and are willing to take your advice and put effort into your success. So it is always encouraged for you to have a better network, where your network is willing to, capable, and able to put money into your success And if you don't have that network, you got to get you a better network. You can't have friends on your plate that are not willing to invest in you. You can't have friends on your plate that are not trying to help you find ways to make more money for yourself. You can't have friends on your plate that are not willing to make more money for their self, because both situations are going to be catastrophic. Those friends that are only with you for a good time are not going to be there when times get tough, and times are going to get tough. And if those friends are not with you to build up, you're going to be in a situation where you don't build up. You don't become successful. They're not going to build up. They're not going to become successful. And that's going to lead to tough times. But if you guys are building up and making more success, tough times stop happening and more financial freedom start happening, where you then have more time to start paying attention to more ways to make more money, so that you don't have to deal with all of the problems with not having enough money. I got to tell you, when I was talking about Franklin before, Franklin comes up and he hits his. You see those shorts on TikTok where Franklin comes up and he hits his friends and he's like, come on, let's go make that money. The money's gonna come if you put the work in. The person is gonna be there, the video game's gonna be there, the dates are gonna be there, but you got to go get that money first. You get the money first, and then the money will make opportunities for you. That has always been the aspiration. If you have the type of inner circle that is with you, driven to go get money, then y'all will have money. And then once you have the money, then you can utilize the money to do other things. So while you're grinding at 90% of your income is going into your bills, 120% of your income is going into your bills, you're living check to check. You don't have, if you take 2 weeks off, you don't have enough money to pay your bills. If you got to work 2 jobs to make ends meet today, then you need to be working with your network and talking to your homeboys and talking with your sisters, if you, the female group, and try to find ways to make more money so that you can have more money making money for you. In doing this, you're going to improve and increase your revenue stream on a weekly and monthly basis. But if all you're doing is twiddling your thumbs, you're working against a stone, you're just going to sit there and you're just going to let well enough be, because you have those conflict avoided people. You have those people that are content with doing what they're told for a price, as long as they get immediate satisfaction. And doing what you're told for a price with immediate satisfaction means that you show up, and for the amount of time that you're here, that's all you're going to get. So you can simplistically think about how much money you're going to make, or how much you have to be present so that you can make a certain quantity of money. But you are not going to be able to improve yourself or improve your wealth or enhance your situation at all, because you are not in a position to say, if I want more money, all I have to do is make this shift. That's not going to happen. So if you got somebody that's going to head down and do what they're told for a price, that's going to be a here and now situation. You are focusing on long-term earnings, long-term investment properties, or long-term investment capital, long-term outcomes. So if you're looking at long-term improvements, you're not looking at short-term revenue streams where you're putting something in right now, you get something out right now. It is what it is. Long-term revenue streams are going to be revenue streams where you're going to do a certain quantity of stuff now to setting yourself up for residual responses and returns for an extended period of time. Extended outcomes are better. And the reason why extended outcomes are better is because what you do today will be paying you next year. What you do today will be paying you for the next 5 years. What you do today will be paying you for the next 10 years, like a back-end deal on a movie. Residual income, because they keep talking to you about this ideology of passive income. And passive income is the observation that money comes to you without you having to do anything for it. Passive income only exists when you're able to put money into something, and that money makes money. Where the most effort that you put into it was redirecting your money to that opportunity, to that financial opportunity. And the money is doing the work. But if you had to grind, you had to do a bunch of cold calls, you had to negotiate with a bunch of people, you had to set up a bunch of contracts, you have to put a bunch of capital into something and then chase that capital with effort so that the money starts making money for you over an extended period of time, you're in a position where you're actually getting residual capital from your efforts. It's not passive. If you are in a pyramid scheme where you got 10 people to get 10 people to get 10 people, and now you're drawing back $3,000 a month, that is not passive income. That is residual income, because the amount of time at 2% of the people telling you yes, out of every 100 people that you asked, only 2 of them said yes. So you had to ask to get 10 people, you had to ask 500 people to get 10 people. And then you had to convince those 10 people to ask 500 people per person so that they could each get 10 people, so that they could then convince their 10 people to ask 500 people so that they could get 10 people, so that you can now be tier 3 making your $3,000 a month. That's effort, because you had to put in 500 people worth of effort to get your money. Then you had to put in effort into the 10 people that you got so that they could each get through 500 people, which is 5,000 people for you, so that they could get 10 people, so that they can then put their effort into somebody else. So you actually stopped putting in effort after you got your 10 people to get 10 people. And now they're trying to get their 10 people to get 10 people. So now you're not doing anything. And in this position, your efforts are now giving you a residual income. But they classify that as passive, because you're not putting effort into it today to get the money today. Today, the money is just coming to you. True passive income is if somebody you know puts in all of this money and then they put you on a account as a beneficiary, and now you're being issued money every month without ever having to put any work into it. That's passive income. That's money that's coming in that you don't have to do anything for. And truth be told, the only passive income that logically exists in reality is an inheritance that you didn't set up. Because if you put the effort into setting up the inheritance, you that's still residual, because you put in effort to recoup the value of this at some point in time. So even in that scenario, you're looking at effort coming in. What's going on, Corey Robin? Effort coming in from investing time into setting up an inheritance. So even when you're trying to do a life assurance situation, and with that life assurance situation, like you've seen on some of these other videos where they say, well, get you a whole life insurance, make the trust the beneficiary, then take the money, put it into the trust, and have the money that goes into the trust go into the 5 top major interest companies. Then it comes out of that, and it's going to go into the trust bank account. Then the trust bank account is going to contractually give you monthly a certain quantity of revenue. You still got to first get this whole life insurance policy up there. You've got to make the monthly payments on a whole life insurance policy. Then that monthly payment, that death benefit from that whole life insurance policy have to go to the trust. That effort of maintaining that whole life insurance policy is still work. So you can't really call that a benefit. Now, if you're the second generation and you're receiving the rewards from that, then yeah, that's a different story. That's a whole different scheme. But you got to set everything up. It's not passive, it's residual. But you want long-term residual income, not short-term residual income. You want, if you're going to assume that you're going to get passive income, you want long-term passive income. You don't want short-term passive income. You don't want to pick up, even if you're doing real estate, you don't want to put money into a real estate deal, get paid off of that real estate deal, and then say, oh, I got to go do another deal. Yes, you can do that and make a shit ton of money, but you want to put money into this deal where this real estate deal is going to continue to pay you for the rest of your life, which is buy and hold. Now, similarly, even if you invested in the stocks, you want to invest into a stock that's going to have an increase on a regular basis. You're going to be receiving residual income off of that increase on a regular basis. So you want to buy something that's on an incline. Now, you know the stocks fluctuate, but you want to buy something that's on an incline. You want to sell it when it's high and buy it when it's low. But if you're buying it when it's low and selling it when it's high, that's effort. So it's not passive. If you're working with trade bots, I tell you guys about trade bots all the time. If you're working with trade bots where you're able to buy low, sell high with those trade bots, even in the stock market, you're still capable of, you got to go back and check it. That's effort, but you're still capable of turning a profit. And you can then work that where your trust is going to be making money. The money is going to be giving you a residual. You're going to be getting tax-free money. You're good. You're golden. But having a kind of network that knows how to set up the trust helps you set up the trust. Have the kind of network that knows how to function all of these opportunities. Having the type of network where your friends are able to have ways to help you invest in certain things so that you'll be able to make money for you. These are things that you need to have in your network. And if you don't have the type of social network that is going to put capital into your pocket through effort or affiliate engagements where they're referring you to an opportunity or they're referring an opportunity to you, if you don't have that particular type of network, then you need to change the network that you're in. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to ghost your friends. It doesn't mean that you need to block your friends on social media and everything like that. It just means that you need to spend more time with people that are trying to make more money. And you also don't want to waste time with people that are investing money into losses, total losses. Now, there is a reasonable quantity of loss where you're going to invest money into that. That's going to be a tax write-off. But there's an unreasonable quantity of loss where you're going to be spending more money than can be written off on your taxes. Because investment capital is tax deductible. But you don't want them to say, well, you know, you're putting a bunch of money into this particular situation and you're not getting any money out of it. Then they're going to say, nah, you're not really making any money off of this. You've got to be able to recognize, yes, I have made money off of this. Yes, I am going to make, I'm not making as much as I'm putting in, but I am making money and I will be making more money later on. Right now, it's a loss. Right now, I can write it off on my taxes. And then next time, it's going to be a gain. It takes 2 to 3 years to get a business stabilized, which means that the first 2 to 3 years that you're trying different things, you're going to have a fluctuation of not making money. Or when you make money, you're not making as much money as you're putting in. But if it is a good deal, if it is going to end up being a good and profitable outcome, you're looking at the progress of success gradually increasing. And when the progress of success is gradually increasing, that's when you start seeing yourself have a flock of friends start showing up and, oh, I want to be involved. Just like after Noah built the ark, everybody wanted to ride the fucking boat. But at the end of the day, ain't nobody was out there helping him build that motherfucker. He was building it by himself. You cannot say that you've got good friends in your network if they're only going to show up and benefit from the success. Oh, they'll help you run the thing that you set up so that they can get half of the operation profits. Fuck that shit. If I set up an empire and paying you minimum wage as an employee, just because you're my friend does not mean that I'm going to make you one of the CEOs and give you top dollar. You did not help me build this. I'm not going to give you top dollar. Top dollar goes to the person that puts in the most effort into your success. Top dollar goes to the people that are investing in you. So those are going to be your executive investors that are going to give you your startup capital. Your startup capital, they get paid first. So your friends that invest into the success of your business, those are going to be the ones that you're going to pay back first. So the first handful of dollars that you get, you're going to be like, all right, I'm going to be paying them residuals because they helped me get here. Then after you've paid them in full, then you're able to redirect your capital to other opportunities. But you want to make sure that the type of network that you have are going to invest in you the way you're going to invest in them. It is not supposed to be an L. I've said this before on the show plenty of times. You got to follow the laws of alchemy. What you get out of it, you got to put into it. You cannot expect to get something out of it. Equivalent exchange. You cannot put something into it and not expect to get something out of it. So if you've got the type of network where your friends are asking more from you than what they're willing to give to you, then that is not equivalence. If you're in a relationship where your partner is asking more from you than what she is willing to give to you, that is not equivalence. So if you've got family members that are asking more of you than what they are willing to give to you, that is not equivalence. And if it is not balanced, if it's not equivalent, if it is not uniform, I talk about uniformity on the show all the time. If it is not uniform, then it is more of a parasitic relationship where the person that is asking more is siphoning resources from the successful person, where the successful person now has to make way more success to have way more resources so that the parasite can leech off of them, because in a symbiotic relationship, I'm going to get from you something different than what you're going to get from me, but what I'm getting from you sustains me, and what you're getting from me sustains you. That is symbiosis. But that symbiotic thing is still fundamentally a law of alchemy, because I'm getting something out of the deal valued equivalently to the value that you're getting out of the deal. Those two things aren't the same thing, and they're not weighed equally, because what's important to me is not important to you. So I might have higher value on it than you do, but the fact is that I valued something as much as you value something else, and what I'm getting from you has equivalent value to what you're getting from me. The same thing we have talked about in relationships between men and women is that what the women are looking for from the men with the financial investments is what the men is looking for from the women with the attributes of cooperation, participation, and functionality, and following instructions, and getting tasks done. Non-tangible task-based efforts is equivalent to one another. So the partner to the man is doing what he needs her to do when he gives her instructions, and the partner to the woman is paying for the shit that she wants paid for when she needs stuff paid for. The equivalence there is not equal, because money is going to be worth more than stuff, but the value of the money that she receives might be the value of the stuff that he gets. Equivalence. This is why we say that you have to make sure that you have that balance. And I also say that you want to make sure that you're not the most successful person in your network. You want to find people and bring them into your network that are more successful than you. And then you want to strive to be as successful as them. And that way you are able to get tips and tricks and strategies as to what you can do to improve and better yourself. Because if you are the cream of your crop, then you have plateaued. If you are the best apple in the basket, you can't get any better than that. But if you come out of that basket and you go into the display line and there are better apples than you can figure out a way to be a better apple. Like they say, big fish, small pond, goes into a big pond and becomes a small fish. The fact is that you might be the best there is in this small space, and your ability to improve plateaus. But if you go into a larger area, then you have a lot more competition, which means that you have a lot more room to grow. You have a lot more progress to be made. You go from being a predator to being a prey. You are able to maximize your success by putting in more effort. That is why we encourage everybody to find a larger a network of people that are more successful than them, so that you can learn how to be more successful with them. So you're going to have ideas. You're going to have concepts that they already have. But if you are talking to more successful people about being successful, they're going to be more interested in being around you, because you're not interested in leeching off of them. You're only interested in being as successful as them. And successful people that see the drive of success in another person will have no problem with apprenticing that person, mentoring that person, where that person can now learn for free from this other person what they need to do to be successful. This is what we talk about on a regular basis on this podcast. There's so many different ways we can go about doing these things. But just like today's tips and tricks about you being able to contractualize the revenue that you loan your friends, you're able to contractualize the assets and resources that you invest in. You're able to redirect funds and capital to different locations so that you can start getting yourself a regular capital gain. These are things that you need to think about setting up for yourself, figuring this stuff out. And if you can't figure this stuff out, that's when you go to your network and try to have them help you figure it out with them. And if they're not helping you figure this stuff out, then they're more of a liability than they are an asset. Now, granted, you got friends and family that don't have a lot of knowledge, and you're going to be the more knowledgeable person. You're going to share your knowledge with them. But when sharing your knowledge with them comes to, oh, that's a great idea, I'm going to invest in that. One of the things that we have to understand at the top of everything, where effort is lacking, financial compensation ensues. So you don't have to have enough knowledge and effort or anything involved in a situation. You just got to be able to take the money and say, well, that's a good idea. I'll put 10 stacks on that. You got a good idea. I'll put $100,000 on that. You don't have to know nothing. You don't got to help me with it. You just gave me $200,000. You helped. Draft you up a contract. Say, hey, I'm going to give you X number of dollars out of this. And boom. Now, out of your business. You're going to do whatever it is that you said you was going to do with the money that they gave you. And now you're obligated to give them a percentage of the revenue that you receive out of your business venture. And you're going to keep paying them until you've paid them in full. Or if you got the contract where you're going to say, well, I'm going to keep the money, but I'm going to give you the interest off of the money every month for a certain period of time. And you can elect that I keep the money still, and we can renegotiate how much your interest rates are going to be. But if you're going to give me, say, $200,000 for the course of 5 years, and I'm going to pay you monthly out of that $200,000, then you've got to give me the $200,000. So if you say, well, you're going to give me the $200,000, and I'm going to give you 20% interest back on the $200,000. Well, if 20% interest is $4,000, then I'm going to give you $4,000 a month. If it's going to be a monthly payment. If it's $4,000 out of the year, that's different. If I'm going to give you 20% annually, 20% annual return, then you're looking at that $4,000 for the year being, 20% would be $40,000. So $40,000 out of the year, and that would actually multitude down to about $2,000 a month. And when you're looking at that, you're looking at being able to take that capital and say, well, I got to give them $2,000 a month every month for the next 5 years. And then we got to re-talk about what I'm going to do with his principal, because I still owe him his principal. That's just the interest. Now, at any point in time, you can buy him out and say, no, I'm going to give you all of your money right now, depending on the contract with early termination. But if they give you that 200 grand, you're set. You can do whatever you got to do. Set up your shit. They give you 10 grand. You want to give them 20% interest on 10 grand. It's $200. I can give you $200 a month on 10 grand. If I'm going to take that 10 grand and turn it into 100 grand, it's the cost of doing business. But if I'm just going to take that 10 grand and go pay bills with it, where I'm not going to utilize that 10 grand and make a profit off of it, then that's a waste of money. You don't want to borrow against a stone just to make ends meet. And that's where people make this big mistake with cash advance and payday loans, because you borrow against a stone just to pay bills, just to make ends meet. So now, not only do you owe for the bill that you couldn't afford to pay, but you also owe it with interest. So if you were short $200 and now you got to pay somebody else $600 because you borrowed $200 to pay for this, now you owe $600. But that's a reoccurring $200 bill, which means next month you're going to owe $600 and the $200. How are you breaking even? How are you improving? You got to be able to take that $200 where you only got to give them $220 or $240 back, but take that $200 and make $300 or make $400 off of that $200. So that when you give them the $240 back, you still made $60 or $160 off of that money. And if you did that twice, you would either have $120 or $360, where you could then take your $360 profit, put it in there and do it yourself, and you don't got to borrow the $200 from it. See, that's what we don't think about. That's what we don't pay attention to. If you're going to borrow money, you got to borrow money where money's going to make money for you. This is why when people say with their student loans, oh, I don't want to get student loans if I don't need them. If you don't need them, that's the best time to go get them. Because if you're borrowing student loans at 3 to 6% interest, and they're giving you $5,000 and $7,000 and $10,000 student loans, and you're able to take those student loans and invest in something that's giving you 20% returns. If they're doing 6% interest and you're getting 10% returns, that's a 4% profit. Which means that the full duration of time that you have their money, you're making a 4% profit on the money that they gave you. Then when you got to pay them back, you take that, give it back to them. That's the principal. And you get to keep that 4% increase. So if you got from them, say $10,000, and they charge you, say, 6%, and you got 10% off of that $10,000 annually, then out of that 6% that they're taxing you, where you're making a 10% profit off of that, your $10,000 is making you a $1,000 profit, where they're taxing you $600. You're making a $400 profit off of that annually. If you hold that money for 10 years, that $4,000 profit or $400 profit annually would be $4,000. Not a lot of money, but I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, you get student loans every quarter. You get student loans three to four times a year, because you get 3 to 4 times a year, depending on the university that you go to. So if you're getting $10,000 in the fall and $10,000 in the spring and $10,000 in the summer, and that's $30,000, and you're still doing that 6%, 4 to 6% interest on it from the school, and you're still able to make 10 to 20% interest off of that money, where every $10,000 is going to give you $1,000 or more of interest off of it. Now you're looking at $3,000 a year, and you're increasing your principal, but now you're looking at $3,000 a year, where you're making $1,200 a year of profit off of that $10,000 you borrowed from the school after you've paid them back. And you're sitting on that for 10 years. That's $12,000 after you've paid them back. So the $12,000 you can leave there and continue to make that 10 or 20% interest off of it. So I don't know why you're not going to college to get the degree. You're going to college to get the student loan, so that you can invest student loan into higher interest earnings, where that money is making money for you, because you don't need that money to go to college. That's your profit. That's your return. You take your student refund and invest it into stocks that are making more money off of the stock than your deferred student loan. When you get out of college, whenever you get out of college, you take that stock, cash in on it, pay back your student loan, which until Project 2025 changes that, tax write-off. So boom, you're saved on that one. But on the other hand, you paid off your loan, and after you've paid off your loan, you don't owe anything, which boosts your credit score up. So that's a plus. But the difference between what you made versus what you paid off, that's your profit. And that profit more, you're in school for 4 years. That's what I'm telling you. If you're in school for 4 to 6 years, I was in there for 8 years. You're in there for 8 years going to college, where you're making $60,000 a year off of your education. That's career students. And you're investing $30,000 a year of that into stocks and bonds and stuff, because you don't need that money. Then when you get out of school with that $100,000-$200,000 of student debt, where that $100,000 to $200,000 of student debt was making 10% interest off of a 6% advancement, you would, for every $100,000 or $200,000 that you got coming in, that you're making $20,000 on out the full totality of your education, where you only got to pay back $12,000 of that, you still made $8,000. And really, when you're doing 10%, you're looking at like $20,000 or $30,000. Where all of that $20,000 or $30,000, yeah, you still made $8,000 off of $200,000 that you borrowed, but you gave it back, and that boosts your credit score up dramatically, because now you don't have $200,000 with the student loan weighing down on your 620, because you've got all these student loans. If all that shit is paid off, now your credit score is at 800, 815. But you also have been able to manage to pull back $8,000 that you can now reinvest. Now, here's another thing that you can think about that people don't even really understand, is that if you're making the basic payments on the student loans, when the student loans are required to be paid, you don't got to pay it back in full. You can just make the payments on it. So here's funny. You got $200,000 worth of student loans that are deferred until you graduate from college. But that $200,000 is putting you out $20,000, but you're only paying $300 a month, which is what, $4,000, $5,000 a year, but you're making $20,000 off of that. That's profit. So you actually could take $4,000 out of your $20,000, give it to them for their monthly payments. You would be pocketing $16,000 a year off of their $200,000, and not have to give them their $200,000 at one time. You could just be making payments out of the interest. Why do college students don't do this? Why? Because all the money you borrow from the school is deferred. First payment is not owed until after 6 months of you stop going to college. So why? If you when you don't need the money to survive, that is the best time to borrow the money. because you could literally borrow as much money as they're willing to give you. You don't need it for your education because your education is already paid for. You take all that money that you borrowed, you go put it up somewhere and have it make money for you. And then when you stop going to college, if you stop going to college, because you can keep going to college, you're considered a college student if you're doing at least 6 credit hours every semester. Take 2-3 credit classes. And as long as your GPA stays above a 2.0 or 2.5, you can continue getting financial aid for the rest of your life, which means that you technically don't have to pay that loan back ever. But if you're going to say, well, I'm going to stop going to college, 6 months after you stop going to college, first payment's due. First payment's due, they're going to assess your current income. They say, well, you got to give us $300 a month. Oh, that's fine. I'm okay with that. $300 a month's fine. Because you got $100, $200, $300, $400,000 that you've been collecting from them that you didn't need for the full totality of your education, that you've been throwing into stocks, bonds, and Bitcoin. And just flip it. Then when you graduate, 6 months after you graduate, your first payment is due. Just redirect the money from your interest-bearing accounts to an account that's going to direct deposit to the loan. Now the loan is paid for, you get to keep the change. The monthly payments on the loan is paid for, you get to keep the change. You can utilize the change to now invest into something else. I would still say real estate, because you can take it and you can invest in the tax liens, you can invest into to buy and holds and do rental properties, and then you can start up a business where you can get paid to travel to other places and expand your business, where now you're making money for you, in addition to the fact that you're already turning over a decent quantity of capital for an extended period of time. And it is a more beneficial situation, because there's a lot of businesses out there that I have noticed that are really good for you to turn over a decent profit. But one of the things that I found out is that real estate, you can actually do all over the world, and it's no different. The only change in real estate from country to country is whether or not you can legally own a property as a person versus whether or not your business can legally own that property, versus the rules for rehabilitating the property if you're going to buy something that already exists and you're gonna improve the structure, versus situations where you're gonna buy a plot of land and then you're going to do a ground up construction on it. So overall, when you start talking about the assets of the land, because your ROI is going to be pretty steep on your business when you start doing international business, if you are doing it in a fashion where your money is making money for you, where you can take your profits off of your interest and invest in the expansion of your business. If 40% of the profits that you're making is going into expanding your business, you know that deductions are typically maxed out at about 35%, regardless of whether it's an individual, LLC, S corporation, or a C corporation, because C corporations stop at 20%. Some S corporations stop at 20%, but LLCs are as much as 35%, and individuals right now are upward of 35%. But when they cap you at 15% for under $168,000, and they cap you at 30% at above $168,000 after Project 2025 goes into effect for 2025, you already know that if you reinvest 40% of your profits back into your business, that's 40% tax deductions on 35% taxes, which means you don't pay taxes. Even if you build an LLC, you don't pay taxes, because you reinvested it, most of your profits, back into your business. So you're looking at, no matter what you do, how you do it, where you do it, as long as you're by the book with it, your money's going to be making money for you, and you ain't got to really give Uncle Sam too much of nothing, because everything balances out where you're technically at a loss. Your business is on paper, but you're living a life of rally. So when are we going to find better friends that are going to help us think like this? When are we going to find better friends that have the same mindset as us, where we can start investing in things that we need, that we can start investing in things we can benefit from, where we can start making our laters greaters, and our nows will be the here and now that we have to manage through and endure and self-preserve ourselves in until we get to our later, because our later is greater. You can't tell me that the grass is always greener on the other side if nobody's over there watering the grass. The only reason why it is good over there is because nobody starts plucking resources. When you get to the other side and start plucking the resources without replenishing the resources, just like mining in a cave, those resources will deplete. So you got to be able to build up a nest egg in order for you to pull from that nest egg. You've got to be able to build up a retirement in order for you to have a retirement to pull from. You have to be able to set something up for your later. So if you're 30 and you didn't build a 20-year plan, you need to start building a 20-year plan right now. If you're 20 and you didn't think about this, start building a 20-year plan right now. Because if you start building a 20-year plan of success right now, where your every decision that you make is built upon becoming financially successful in the long term, in 20 years, you'll be 40, 41, 42, you'll be successful. If you're 30 and you start it now, it's going to be hard because it's going to take 2 to 3 years of effort before you start seeing residual responses. But you keep dedicating yourself to it, 2 to 3 years, you're going to start seeing a positive result, and you're going to keep capitalizing on a positive result. But if you start at 30, by 50, 53, 55, you're going to be set. If you're 40, you're just not finding the shit out at 40 years old, you start doing it at 40, 20 years later, 60, 63, 65, you're going to be set. If you just found out at 70 years old, you might as well just tell your kids. But the fact is, even at 70 years old, if you've got a lot of money that you don't need, you can always try to set it up where you can have a 3 to 5 year small. You can do high investments on small term returns, where small term returns it could be massive short returns, but because your life is expected to be shorter, you can actually benefit from those returns sooner. But long-term returns for younger folks, you guys want to invest in things that are going to be more fruitful for you later on in mass quantities. You see on TikTok where they're talking about, oh, well, if you put $500 a month in over the course of the next 30 years, you'll have $1.5 million to $1.25 million. Yeah, if you put the money in there and never touch it, and you're diligent about putting $500 in there, but you can also put $10,000 in there. And if you throw $10,000 at a time in there, it ain't going to take 30 years for you to get that $1.5 million with the same interest rates. See what I'm saying? So if you can afford to if you can afford to spend $300 a night in a club, and you're in a club 5 nights a week or 5 nights a month, that's $1,500. So why are you putting in 500 if you could put in 15? If you're putting in 1,500, it shouldn't take you 30 years. If you're putting in 15, if 500 a month in 30 years, we get you $1.5 million. You get the same $1.5 million in a third of the time. In a third of the time, putting in $1,500 a month will get you $1.5 million in 10 years. So instead of quit walking in a club with the latest J's, with the Gucci outfit and the Louis Vuitton watch and all this other shit, you do simple. You do simple because simple will give you a greater later sooner. You live below your means for as long as you need to. And the statistical average is right now that when you're making 3 times more than what you need, that's when you can upgrade your status level, which actually makes sense. Because if you look at the investment strategies that I told y'all about a couple of months ago, if you go back and look at some of those shows, when I was telling you that you can invest 20% of your income with 80% of your debt, then you turn back around and think about the fact that you actually could have invested half of your, if your standard of living is 50% of the money that you're making, you're doing something right. But then when you think about the alternative of when you throw down where 20 to 40% of your income is going towards your debt and the other 80% can be invested, that's when you're really living large. And you can upgrade your status from 20% of your income to 40% of your income because you're still taking more than 50% of your income and investing. But until you are able to wrap your mind around those concepts, if you are 99% of your income on your debt, 80% of your income on your debt, you've got to keep investing until you can knock that down to a magnitude where half or less than half of your income is going on your debt and the rest of it is being invested. And that's when you can say, oh, I'm going to up a tier. You don't buy a car because you got a promotion, because your pay scale went up. You buy a car because your car broke and you need a new car. But when you buy a new car, you're not buying a $500,000 car because you're making $500,000 a year. You buy it, but if you are making a million, $2 million, $3 million, and your taxes on that million, $2 million, $3 million is that $500,000 car, then you go and buy that $500,000 car because guess what that car just did? Tax write-offs. You got you a free car because instead of giving Uncle Sam 500 grand, 500 grand had to go somewhere. Instead of giving Uncle Sam 500 grand, it went on a 500 grand car. But you're not buying the car for the sake of buying the car. You're buying the car for the sake of the tax write-off. And then the funny thing is that because you get the 100% tax write-off on the first year that you get the vehicle, the funny thing is that the next thing that you could do, people don't talk about this part, is that you could get a title loan on a vehicle for 50% of the value of the vehicle, where you got the vehicle for 500 grand tax write-off. You get a 250 grand loan out on a vehicle that you then make monthly payments on, where you got 250 grand invest in something else. You could do that. I mean, I wouldn't, but you could do that. Either way it goes, there are ways where you have assets that are valued as something that can be utilized against something else, so that you can leverage it towards cash and use that cash and pay for something else that could then get you more revenue. And if you're spending this money in different ways where your money is making more money for you, then every time I tell y'all stuff that people don't want to hear, boy, they start trying to take us off the air. So we did it. We did it. I'm back. I had to hotspot some shit. I had to get this is some weird stuff. It just so happens that every now and again that the situation just does not function the way we want it to function. But you got to understand that as we try to make it make sense, I got to adapt. Self-preservation. So I appreciate you guys that have been watching the podcast. Thank you guys for hanging in there. For those of you that was taking a look at me when we kind of had that short interruption, I'm going to tell you guys again, since you probably didn't hear me as I was trying to log off. Ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to have to ask you to make it make sense. So ladies, make it make sense. And everybody who's still with me today, I really appreciate you guys coming to the podcast. Thank you for coming to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And you guys have a good night.